Welcome to the channel. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Join me today. We will be reviewing a watch from a brand called Zezame. You might have seen them pop up as this particular model did the YouTube runs a few months back. First thing you obviously notice is that rather large outer packaging, which contains another box for the watch as well as some accessories. Now the good thing about this internal watch box is that it can double up as a travel box, and if you notice they've shrink wrapped the watch to the actual cushion, which I've never seen before, but it gives you a lot of security. So I think there's a lot of packaging given. Personally, you don't need that much. Better to use that money to put into the watch manufacturing rather than all this excessive packaging. So this particular model is known as the Eye of the Dragon because of the colors which are available. There's a total of 5 different colors, 4 of which are really eye-catching and feature a lovely rich colored palette, including that mysterious fume effect, and the last one is a very bright eye-catching silver. Now, one thing I've seen on a lot of the reviews around this watch is that people compare this instantly to Seiko, and in particular the Alpinist. Now, don't get me wrong, I've done this myself in the past and it's model dependent, to be honest. However, I can tell you right off the bat at the start of this review, this doesn't have anything on the Seiko Alpinist. I've got 2 watches right here which are Alpinists, and this watch right here can't touch them at all. Even if it is only £120, which is an incredible price for what you still get, including the specifications, aesthetics, and the overall build quality. So this watch is good, but let's not get carried away and call it an Alpinist killer. It does have more of a resemblance to the Tic Tac collab that Seiko issued, and I see that more of a Saab style or a Saab spin-off rather than an actual Alpinist. So the specifications will be on screen, and there's nothing out of the ordinary here. I'll point out that the sapphire crystal has a really great profile. You get a curved edge and it's quite low dome, and the curved edge has a very seamless fit right into that bezel. So the right choice of sapphire, and this watch uses the Epson YN55 automatic movement, which is found in Orients as it is a Seiko owned brand, and it's very similar to the Seiko NSA5 in function and reliability. It has the main things like hacking, hand winding, and date function. Dimensions on this are very compact. Yes, it is a smaller watch. It's got 38mm case diameter. It's around 12.7mm thick with a 45.5 lug to lug and 20mm between the lugs. So let's zoom in on the dial. So first off, I absolutely love fume dials as well as green, but it doesn't need to be the right shade of green. Yeah, I think they've nailed it. It's a really rich, deep, earthy green, which always pairs up beautifully with some gilt. And they've done the same with the blue. They've used very rich, colorful tones. And then when you combine these rich colors with the gold, you do get a very royal, classy aesthetic. I also like the texture on the dial. It's quite a flat dial, so you don't get any sun ray, you don't get any excessive glare off the dial. So it gives you a rather uniform look at that rich, deep green hue that you get. However, I say the color matching is a little bit off. The handset is what sticks out immediately. It's not a rich gold handset, it's more for a brassier, and just under some conditions, it may look with a hint of bronze in there. Now, of course, with that coarse brushed finish, it makes it stand out even more. And then you've got that painted lume, which is a creamy color, and it doesn't really match the dial as well. Now, even the printed markers, they're not exactly gold. It's more of a yellow. It's similar to that Faultina yellow. And from a distance, it's fine, but close up, it doesn't gel as well as I would like it to. Now, what makes it more apparent is obviously that gold-plated bezel. Your eyes are looking for a color match, and if you've got really good eyes, you don't really get that uniform gilt. Now, there's a much better match when you look at the other colorways, except for the silver, obviously, but because the main thing is that bezel is not plated on those, so then it becomes more of a color match between, you know, the whatever color they've used and that faux vintage sort of lume they've gone for, because the markers, the printed hour markers and the minute track is actually more yellow than it is gold. And I think that gold bezel is throwing it off a little bit. You know, it doesn't really gel as well as you'd hope. So aside from that, I don't really mind that red text they've gone for, and I think they've made the right choice of putting the date at 6 with the beveled windows. And they've gone with a black date for that stealth look. Now the lume on this is also very reasonable. It's quite strong Faultina lume. As you can see, there's adequate amount of layers present. What I didn't expect to see was that the loomed date. It's a black date wheel with just the numerals loomed. So it's definitely a nice touch. Bonus points there for Zezame. Now moving on to the case, this is where I think the watch changes its personality a little. The watch face gives off a really elegant, vintage and slightly dressy aesthetic, even though its core is a field watch. Now the bezel is also quite elegant due to the shape. It's a concave sloped bezel, but the case is definitely more tool-like or dressed down. I'd say it's very basic in finishing. You've got the circular brushing on those lugs, and there's a very defined edge from the lug to the side of the profile where you get the horizontal brushing, which I'd like to say is a lot softer and it's a bit more satin-like. And you can actually see the difference between the brushing in hand. I'd say the case could definitely do with some large polished bevels along the sides just to give it some highlights so it fits in with the rest of the watch. Now the gold crown gives you a more of a vintage charm, like a half onion crown, complete with the logo, and it's got really good grip, good function, and nothing to fault here. Now checking out the case back, it is very OEM. It's fully brushed and includes the specifications and the logo in the center, which when you see that Z or Z, you can't help but think, yeah, that should have been the Dial logo rather than the script they've used. Now when you come back to the bracelet, the watch now has taken its medication and switched back to its original personality. You've got a gorgeous beads of rice bracelet, soft brushing on the outer links, polished beads. You've also got female end links with all the individual pieces, making this a 7-link bracelet. It also comes complete with quick release bars, which is a premium feature no doubt, and it's going to make it easier to swap over to that leather strap they have provided. Now the bracelet does taper down to 18mm at the clasp, which the clasp shell is actually quite dated. To be fair, it's been out for a fair few years and they could have done with upgrading that to match the overall look. But the internals are milled and it does give you 3 micro adjustments. Now while I'm here, I might as well speak about the leather strap that they've provided. It's a really high quality strap. You can feel that in hand. You've got nice contrast stitching. You've got padding also in the center and a raised shield on the clasp with the logo. Also features quick release bars. And going back to the quality and feel, it definitely feels like good quality leather. But it will just need a bit of wearing in due to the padding for it to actually fully articulate, particularly on small wrists. Now coming back to the steel bracelet, the tool provided is really handy to resize as the watch bracelet does use screw-in links. There's very smooth threading, but I do recommend use Loctite as the threads have 0 from factory. Now before I do try the watch on, there is an issue which I picked up regarding the case and the bracelet. What I have found is that the second link catches on the insides of those lugs, because the lugs are just a little too long, and because the bracelet does have a bit of side play, some rotation to the side, the second link kind of catches itself on the inside of the lugs and it kind of sits off and gets skewed. It happens quite often, so I'd say this is a bit of a design error by making the lugs just a little too long. Now thankfully this issue does not affect the watch while wearing it on wrist, because the bracelet is pulled out slightly and not catching those lugs. Now on wrist it is better suited for smaller wrists. It's got a very compact dimensions. That lug to lug is just under 46mm, so it's going to sit very comfortably. You've got good presence and there's really good overall balance, and the bracelet is very comfortable due to those glossy beads. So overall I'd say it's definitely a good watch for £120. I would not pick that gold bezel if you're overly particular like I have been. The blue and the black are great alternatives, but the silver also stands out. It's a very different aesthetic to the rest, and it's always good to have a good silver dial watch in that collection. I'd also cut down on the packaging and put some of that money into updating the clasp and adding those highlights to the case. If that means it's going to be around £150, so be it, as you definitely get the value out of it. So that's it from me today, guys. Let me know your thoughts below in the comment section. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next video.